Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the kickoff of the Foundations to Framework webinar series, Supercharging Your QMS with AI. I hope you're ready for an event full of information and inspiration. Now, when you registered, you received the webinar link for all 4 of these events. You do not need to register again. You are fully in. Now, the links to all recordings and materials for all sessions will be sent out to all registrants at the end of the series. Today, we're going to kick off the series with Foundations of AI. And if you have any questions during the webinar, go ahead and add them to the Q&A, and we'll answer as many of those at the end of the session as we can. So some introductions. I'm Lynn Roberts, and I'm here with my co-host and co-founder of MyQMS.ai, Justin Dierking. Together, we'll be hosting the webinar series to share how AI can transform quality management. And we've spent our careers in medtech companies leading teams, tackling complex challenges, and really looking for opportunities to truly move the needle on getting better quality and compliance faster. Now, our goal for this webinar series is to help you explore how AI can boost productivity and strengthen compliance in your quality management system. But first, we're going to need to lay a little bit of groundwork and establish the foundations of AI. And here to help us with that today is our special guest, Dr. Ashiq Rahman. Ashiq has 25 years of experience in data analytics and AI. He helps companies build a competitive advantage with AI while minimizing risk. And he offers workshops on what is AI and how can I use it to advance my professional life, benefit my company, and enrich my personal life. Welcome, Ashiq. Thanks for joining us today.
Happy to be here.
So you have so much experience when it comes to AI. You've been working in this space for many, many years. For those of us that are new to it, could you please define AI in simple terms? What is AI?
I'm glad you asked that questions. In my mind, AI is just a tool, like many of the tools we use in our everyday life. Um, it has some algorithms that looks at the data and find patterns of the data. And now one unfortunate things in the media and in our industry, AI is kind of portrayed as like superhuman God. It's not really. It's really a representation of data, what we call training data, that was put in this blank algorithm, which is a neural net it is. And it looks all the patterns it see, and it helps with doing certain tasks. It's not perfect because it's learning from examples. And if you treat AI as a tool, I think life becomes easier because then you're aware of what it can do or cannot do and take precautions.
So, Ashiq, is AI as good as the human brain?
Is calculator as good as the human brain? I'll give you an answer in terms of the questions, right? I remember when I was a kid, right? I could do math, what is 25 plus 27? I could just write, right? But beyond certain digit, right? I cannot do that anymore, right? I can do with the calculator. So you can think of AI as just specialized device, right? That can do problems in much bigger, faster that in a way, right? Now you can say that, yeah, they're smarter than us, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then what defines us as a human that we can do all sorts of complex problems without needing that much guidance or somebody to program us, what AI needs, right? AI needs somebody, a researcher, OpenAI, Google, or you in your company to collect a lot of data about that particular problem set and program that up to do that task and better than the human at that time. But these are all new things. So that's how I see it, right? Yes, in certain cases, it can do much better than any human, but you have to remember it's actually the human designed that algorithm.
Yeah, makes sense.
So, Ashik, there are a lot of terms that are getting thrown around today in the media and the news. Can you maybe distill a little bit of the different types of AI that are out there and maybe just a little bit of how each one is used?
Absolutely. To that one, let me share a slide. It's so much easier. because we are all bombarded with these terms. There you go. Hopefully you can all see the slide.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so what's kind of in a Venn diagram was portrayed here is various, and I'll call it algorithms, right? We have neural networks, we have deep learning, we have, CANs, we have transformer. In our media right now, I think they're all portrayed as AI, and which is fine, right? Now you can think of AI as a term that represent any of these technologies that are mentioned here. But in my mind, there are always this particular algorithm, just like linear regression, actually, right? Not just like clustering algorithms. They are just various algorithms designed very specified way with lots of data to do a task. Of course, if you are in this field, if you're doing a PhD or undergrad in machine learning, you learn all about these technologies. But for most people, we'll just take it, okay, these are all AI right now because that's what the industry is kind of going with. Our industry loves this kind of buzzwords. And I'll tell you, before AI, these techniques used to call statistical inference. We used to call it predictive modeling. There was a time we used to call it data science or machine learning, or now we call them AI. So we should really be caught with the terms. They all pretty much means the same thing. It's just an underlying umbrella of these techniques. And you'll see me repeating these particular words again and again, a techniques that represents insight from a data that you have given to these algorithms. So it's really a representation of data, and the algorithm looks at the data, finds out, hey, what is this data telling me? And then I'll give that insight back to the human who asked me these questions.
Great.
So lots of terms, Ashiq, and large language model is a term that we hear often, and a lot of folks know what it is, a lot of folks don't. Can you explain what a large language model is and how it works?
Absolutely. Language models, right, has been there for a long time, right? ChatGPT is the one actually that made it available to normal people. So as a technique, as an API, as a algorithm, we've been using various form of actually language models. And let me show you a slide again. Oh, give me one moment. There you go. I'm going to share my screen. You actually have been using a language model for a long time, actually. So if you open up your phone and get a text applications, and then as you're texting, you might say, hello, how are? And you'll see there's like 3 other words that are given as a recommendation. So you don't have to type that. You can point and click, right? It could be, hello, how are you? How are things, right? This is actually a language model, a simple one. And the way it works, it looked at all the combination possible. What comes after hello, how are? Okay, you know what? It comes 90% of the times is you. Maybe 10% of the time is yours, or a few percent of the time is things. So it's just giving us the options. So what this particular algorithm did is just really counting how many times a particular words comes after this sequence and just giving what is the most probable one. And that's actually what language model is. Given a sequence of word, in this case, hello, how are, what's the next word, right? And of course, what OpenAI and this large language model did, instead of just looking at these simple conversations, they looked at every single published article, journals, anything you can find in the internet. Maybe some unpublished one as well, like books. And they looked at all this text and tried to figure out, hey, if I give a particular sentence, what will be the next word? And what will be the next word afterwards? So let me give you another example. If I ask a language models, in this case, GPT-2, intelligence is like ... fill in the blank. What it does, and I'll give you a visual representation, it looks at what will come after intelligence is. And if you look at the third column, the size of the words is the probability of occurrence of that particular word, right? In this case, intelligence is the most probable word, but that's not the only one, right? It could be a, or intelligence is defined. It could be any of these words. And then it looks at the first three words. Intelligence is, if I choose then it will look at, okay, now I have three words. What's the next possible words? It could be ability or capacity. So when you go and ask ChatGPT or any of this language model any questions, what it is doing is going to such a path, right? Because sometimes if you ask ChatGPT one word and you say, hey, generate the answer again, what it is doing is, instead of going in this particular path, it might go in a different path. So I might say intelligence is the ability to learn, understand, and blah, blah, blah. Or I can go to this path, intelligence is typically defined as the capacity for learning, right? You can see. So the language model actually, and this is the really thing, it really doesn't know in terms of, is it true? Is it valid? Is it a wrong answer, right answer? It has absolutely no clue, because all it is doing, based on everything it has seen in Reddit and Wall Street Journal articles and everything in the internet, is said that, you know what, these are all possible way to come up with a sentence. It has no mind of its own. Is that the language truth? Does it have any bias in it? It has anything bad on it? It doesn't have a mind or judgment on its own. Right? So the language model, one way to look at it is really in your mind, that whenever you ask something, and remember, I always say it doesn't have its mind its own. It's just looking at the data that was given to it when this particular model was built, say ChatGPT, GPT 4.0, and out of all the corpora is coming up with, of course, logical sentence. They are grammatically correct, right? And the things that he has seen it before is come up with the answer. That's really, I would say, the best way to think of large language model. And the term large is actually it's not much relevant, because in the sense, it depends on what time frame we are talking about, right? Like that 3 years ago, GPT-3 was considered as a large language model, because really it has got certain millions of parameters, right? Now we're talking about models that has few billion parameters, maybe even trillion parameters, right? So even the topic large, small is relative, depending on the time frame of our AI journey we're talking about. Right? But so the way I'll summarize, the way to think language model is really a representation of everything that you have seen it, and it's just picking up one word out at a time based on probability.
Yeah, I love the point that you made about it. Is specifically because it means that humans still need to be involved, right? We still need to be able to identify that we are what the information that is being provided is the correct information.
Absolutely.
Hey, Ashiq, there's a question that came in the Q&A that may be a good time to answer. And I know what you showed was an example of a large language model, which is a component of generative AI. So the question is, what is the difference between generative AI versus pattern finding AI is the question. Can you give a little bit of context there on the differences?
Absolutely, right. So we have been doing AI for last 30, 40 years, right? And one of the first example of, say, AI was coming from actually the banking industry, whether when somebody applies for a loan, whether you're going to approve the loan or not, right? So in our case, for example, we call it classification AI, right? Is this person credit worthy versus not, right? We have AI that can come up with clusters of, okay, hey, what are my best running shops in my particular network that I'm running through, right? So the new kid in town, what you call generative AI, is when you give it a particular data and you ask to create a new sample of everything that you have seen before. So if you think of, I can use language model to tell, hey, is this positive sentiment or negative sentiment, right? So I'm using the language model to do pattern recognition, right? And it will say, hey, this is positive or negative. And we've been doing it for last few years, right? Like last few years, you can remember, right? Everybody was talking about, okay, hey, this review, is it positive or negative, right? To get customer sentiment. So that's really choosing between two or three different options, and that's more like a pattern recognition. In generative AI, what I'm telling is just create something new, right? I'm giving a text description, give me a new picture, right? Or I'm asking a question, generate a new response, right? And that's what we have been exposed recently through ChatGPT and DALL-E, that it's creating a new sample of object. Could it be text? Could it be video? Or it could be image that looks like what he has seen before, right? So it's more like if you just think of generate means I'm generating something new, versus the rest of the AI was always designed for do a very specific task. Is this positive? Is it negative? Is this particular credit worthy? Is it good? Is it bad? Or give me a cluster of 5 things, or create a regression line, give me a trend. And those are the traditional AI or machine learning or data science we have been using it. And the new thing is, okay, expanding the capability to create new object based on that we have seen before, or that the algorithm have seen in the data.
Great, thanks. So switching gears a little bit, trying to take some of what we learned here and some of the new information that's coming out and talking about how we use this in our personal lives as a starting point, because that's where a lot of folks start with this technology, is playing with it, experimenting with it in their personal lives. So we're going to open up a quick poll, and if folks here who are attending can answer the poll while we're chatting with Ashiq, and then we're going to review some of these afterwards. But Ashiq, can you maybe give us a few examples of how you're using AI for your own personal productivity?
I'm so glad you asked these questions, right? One of the, I think, beautiful thing that happened, and thanks to OpenAI, that they opened up access to this technology, to this simple interface. I mean, this AI tools has been there for quite a while, and since I live and breathe this thing, I work with this, and I used to use that one, in various tools. Like I remember when I did my PhD, I used Mathematica to do all my symbol calculation. I could never finish my PhD without its help. But again, right, it was a very specialized tool. Many people even didn't know about it. But for a normal person, I would say getting help from ChatGPT to do whatever you do is probably the greatest productivity boost you can think of, right? In my case, I would say my native language is not English. And many of the things in our life, what we do is just really communicate with people. And we communicate through emails sometimes text messages, sometimes we write reports, right? We write performance report for people who are reporting to us, right? We give feedback. So text is a very crucial part of our life to communicate with each other. And I always go to ChatGPT. I have this vague idea, I want to talk about it. Hey, can you write it in a professional way? I'm trying to thank somebody, and all I can say, thank you for this. But then I give a little bit more context, and it writes me a beautiful thank you letter, right? These are really little things, but it helps me a lot, right? And sometimes I would brainstorm it, right? And this is probably the biggest productivity you can think of. I know a lot of things, but I have always a boundary of my knowledge that I know, right? And in our world, in our jobs, we're actually expected to know a lot of things. And before I used to go Google search, and there would go and be 15 different links, have to go and read about it. Now just go ask ChatGPT. hey, this is the topic, this is what I'm thinking. Can you find some flaw on it? Right? Because I don't want it to tell me what I already know. I want it to tell me what am I missing about it, right? So here I have somebody is knowledgeable in the sense that you have seen everything that was written in the entire history, right? And I bounce ideas with it and say, hey, come find, give me some ideas that I'm not thinking about it. And that's probably one of the biggest productivity boost I can think of. And actually, let me even show you. In the early days, I used to go to ChatGPT and write things down. I'm not sure if you all know or not, ChatGPT right now actually has a desktop app. So you don't have to be, get your phone out. This desktop app can be always on. What's even more, if you go to this here and see settings, you'll notice there's something called, there you go, voice. This is actually a new feature, and you can choose a voice, right? There is someone called Maple.
Hey, what's up?
Uh,
Feel free to ask me about anything that's on your mind.
uh,
I'm ready to go.
there's
Hello.
someone called
It's
Bell.
lovely to meet you. If there's anything you need, please don't hesitate to
Comes
let
with the
me know.
British accent.
I'm
So,
here to help.
so you can choose.
Hey, what's up?
So
Feel
let's,
free to ask me about anything that's on your mind.
so let me,
I'm ready to go.
let me choose Soul. She's a little bit informal. If I go, okay, so let me close the settings. And as another thing, there's actually two new buttons in front of you. The microphone button, that was the old way of doing things. If I say microphone and if I start talking, all it does, it simply converts whatever I'm saying to a text and you can send it to it. The new thing is this button. So let's click it and you'll see magic happens. Good morning, Saul.
Good morning, Ashiq. How's it going?
Hey, Saul, I'm going to go to a webinar as a panelist. I'm feeling nervous. Can you give me some tips to calm myself?
I totally get the nerves, but you'll do great. Try these tips. First, take a few deep breaths to help calm your nerves. Visualize a successful webinar where you share your insights confidently. Also, prepare some key points you'd like to discuss so you feel ready. And remember, it's okay to pause and gather your thoughts before answering any questions. You've got this.
I'll stop. What I'm getting
Ashiq, that's really cool feature. Could you just show your screen real quick so people can kind of see what that looks like? The ChatGPT app. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
So for a little context, the ChatGPT just released an app that you can download on your computer. It's very similar to what you have in your browser, but it's a dedicated app with a few other little tweaks.
but thank you. Can you guys see the screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that, I forgot. But what I was just showing, I'll just quickly repeat. If you go to ChatGPT, go to settings, and this is where I was. You'll see there's a lot of things there in about personalization. And where I was going is this particular area called speech. And then here I could go and choose.
Hello. It's lovely to meet you.
Hey, what's up? Feel
And,
free.
and then once I am choose a voice that goes with my mood, what I was showing you here, this was the microphone button. If I use the microphone button, all it does is convert everything that I've said so far to a text. And that was how I used to do before. I'm not going to do that one. What I did, I'm kind of repeating, I click this particular button. And when you do that, you'll see that advanced voice mode with this kind of blue cloud comes in, and that's the one that you can talk with. And where I was going with is that it become a companion to me. So this is always open. And when I'm doing something, I don't have to go to a web browser, chatgpt.com, and type everything. I can simply talk with it, right? And I don't have to even think of, oh, I need a useful use case to talk about, right? Whatever I have in my mind, I can simply go and ask. And I can babble, let's put it this way. It doesn't have to be coherent sentences. Just like I can talk with a friend, right? And then sometimes, I'm thinking, I'm creating idea, and I do a lot of presentation. I talk about AI, I give, come up with new ideas of doing. And many of the times, I'm thinking about it. So I'll go and actually brainstorm this is what I'm thinking, this is the thing I learned, blah, 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 blah. Then I'll say, hey, can you summarize everything in a coherent way? It's beautiful. Just help me a lot. And if you get only one thing out of the way that you really don't need a use case to use any of these tools, I can guarantee you, doesn't matter what you do, you can use this one to help you. I can keep going on. I'll give you another example. It's a really fun one. So my wife is a PM, works in a very high stress environment, and she talks with ChatGPT all the time. So one evening, she comes from work, she's kind of upset. She's not talking with me. So she went there, did something, then she comes to me and said, Ashiq, ChatGPT really understands me. Right? And it can understand my mind. So what she did, she didn't even talk with me. She went and talked with ChatGPT, and ChatGPT gave her some useful advice. She was calm, right? So this is another way that, it's not only work, you can talk with anything that's in your mind, and it's a helpful companion to help you in whatever you're doing.
And is that available to everyone?
Yes, the ChatGPT,
And
even
the voice
yes,
voice
it is.
feature?
Yeah, I think, and what it might do, it might limit how many conversation you can do. I think, that's how they actually give you the advanced feature to have a feel of it. And depending on whether you paid or not, they'll limit how many times you can use these things. I have to check. They have the voice feature for the free account for sure. I have to check the advanced feature. It may or may not be for the free one. We have to check the documentation. It just came out like last week. So.
Yeah, thanks for showing a little demo. It's pretty cool. I use it like in the car sometimes if I'm traveling. I just want to check on some things. It's just kind of a fun little way to pass some time and chat with and learn some new information. So I really love that.
So Justin, were you able to pull up the poll results, or
I'm can you check on that for me and see where those are?
Let's see if I can view details. Let's see, I think here, let me pull those up. Hold on a sec.
How about while you're doing that, we're going to continue on and then we'll come back to those and just
good.
take a look at what folks are doing. So Ashiq, you talk to a lot of different companies in your work. You're doing workshops and advising different companies. I'm curious, where are you seeing organizations adopt AI into their internal and customer-facing business processes?
Absolutely. And then as I talk, I will also share the slide this time. What I'm showing you right now is really what I've seen the top use cases of generative AI that people are successful, right? I mean, there's thousands of trial going on with various startups. But one of the ones that in my mind is very successful is improving customer experience. Just think of, like, there was times I was to call a customer support and I would be on hold for 45 minutes and they're transferring me from department to department, right? Nowadays, people are building systems where the customer service people are more knowledgeable and they can answer your questions much easily, right? And to the extent, some of them, they have like fully automated chatbots, right? So that's a big area. These are proven, definitely you can use them. Other one that's making really big impact is what I call content and creativity, and especially in marketing organization. And there was a time, people has to draw everything, all the marketing blocks, anything you want to say. But nowadays, with DALL-E image generation and ChatGPT like tools, the life of marketing people is so much easier. They can go from idea to a production in much quicker time frame. I had a friend who is a VP of sales, and he was telling me, when I go to all of my sales calls, this AI entity comes, it monitors everything, and when I'm done, it actually guides me and coaches me. Hey, this is the time I sent some resistance in your customers, and you should have talked that way. And he was saying, I've been doing it for the last 25 years. It's amazing how it's helping me. Right? So in even sales, And there's a lot of things actually that's happening to help your sales organization and marketing organization to become more productive. There's a lot of things in prototyping and VFX. What's even more, this other bucket I will say is what I call people and process productivity. Like if you're a software engineer, I mean, oh my God, you will be or you should be using all these coding assistants. I mean, there was a time in my early days, I would write a piece of code and put tab, and it will simply autocomplete the function I'm calling. But now I can just simply go and write a doc screen that describe what I'm planning to do, and it will write the whole code for me. Right? This is like completely science fiction, right? Especially what's happening in the software engineering ones, right? Other thing that I also see, what I call like knowledge search within the corporate enterprise. I mean, you may have documents scattered all over your SharePoint, and you have Copilot with SharePoint. There's a company called Glean, or your IT may be building these rack systems they call about. But they all goes with, can an employee find the information that he or she needs? They're relevant to them, and not just Google, a context-aware search, right? And there's a lot of things also about, it's all about what they call digitization, right? If you have things that are in documents and you can process them, you can understand them. So this whole people and productivity is a big one. Was not talked about much, and what I have said so far, it belongs to this particular group, what I call like productivity and efficiency. It's more like doing the same thing you're doing it cheaper, faster. Let's put it this way. Right? What I feel is the most important things is that, hey, can you use this tool to not only efficiently, but doing things in a much better way? Like you guys are in quality management space, you can actually take advantage of these tools to design products that are in much better quality. There are things that you couldn't imagine doing before, but with these tools, right, you can design products that are in much better quality. And even I can go even one step further, right? As you are doing and exploring these tools, you might come up with an idea that will be a completely new product that even didn't exist before, right? You might find new ways of doing things that will generate new revenue. And it could be that particular new way of doing things is so much strategic importance, it's almost like life and death. Like I can tell you examples, like, just to give your thoughts. Think of General Motors. It's a car company we know, but it used to be a wagon company in the early days, right? And the CEO of the chairman of that wagon company saw this engine and he realized, oh my God, if I don't move, I'll be history. And then he transformed that wagon company to a car company, right? And this is what I call a strategic importance, that there are certain things you do today, it works, but then a new technology comes, and if you're not shifting to this new technology, you'll be dead. Your company will be dead completely out of the. So we all start with this productivity and efficiency way because this is the easy and proven one. But I think the most of the value lies in this quality and new way of doing things as it comes to using AI for enterprise.
So we've got about 8 minutes left in our session. I do want to make sure we leave a little bit of time for some Q&A. So if folks on the call have some questions, please load them in the Q&A right now. And then Ashiq, maybe we'll do one or maybe two more questions before we get to the Q&A, depending on how many come through.
There is one in the chat that we can, if
Sure.
can pull that one. I find it interesting using it for personal conversations, as you mentioned about your wife, as this could be private info, as does this get secured and private, not to get into the open? So can you talk a little bit about the privacy around that?
Absolutely. And thank you for asking. If you are using the free version, then you have no control. So The reason is free because they want something out of it. And one of the, I would say, biggest advantage of OpenAI that they have been collected all this conversation, and they're using, and they have used this data to train their next model. So definitely, if you're in a work environment, and if you're using the free version, please make sure that you're not putting any confidential information that normally you won't talk about. Now, if you use the paid version, actually, even as a personal, like I pay $25 per month for ChatGPT. In that case, there's the option in the customization in the settings, you can turn off. And by default, it's probably on, so you can use my data. But on the paid version, you can go and click that button. And by the way, it's with any software, right? Even if you're in the paid version, right, this settings is hidden somewhere. So you have to go and look at the settings and turn it off, saying that, hey, do not use this information for training that data. And that's what I've done. I have turned it off. In a corporate environment, definitely check with your IT. You will have agreements with your service provider, whether it's OpenAI, Microsoft Copilot, and then make sure that what you are allowed to say or not. Now, that's a definitely secure way of doing it. For example, most of the companies are using Microsoft for your email and SharePoint. So they have your information anyway, but they put in a VPN virtualized network, so nothing goes out of it. And you can buy these AI services if you're a Google shop through Google, if you're a Microsoft through Microsoft, where everything you say, even if it is OpenAI ChatGPT version, that will remain secure within your environment. So definitely I will check with your IT department to making sure that what you can say or not say. And once you have secured that particular way, then you're free to talk. But I will say definitely check, because your licensing may be different than other people.
Great. Good advice. Good advice. One other Q&A that came through, you did the example with Soul and the speech back and forth. Does it learn your individual mannerisms when you do that, and kind of like your preferences, those kind of things?
Absolutely. There's an option in the personalization called memory. You can turn it off on, actually. So once it turn it on, it will remember simple things. Like, for example, it knows I have a 4-year son named Liam, right? And as you talk with it, I might just actually share and kind of show you what it is. I just, give me one moment. I'm sharing my screen. This is actually is an amazing thing. So if I go to ChatGPT's, not here it is, ChatGPT settings, it's on this personalization menu. Yeah, here it is. You can see memory. So once the memory is on, it will remember little bits and pieces about you. Time to time, you can go and say, right now, I just cleared everything. Oh, look at right there. Because remember, I just talked to Soul. It's remember, Ashiq is going to participate as a panelist in a webinar. So it will remember these little bits about you, and it may be helpful. And time to time, you should go there and delete the things that you don't want, because it remembers everything, right? So it's a good practice to go and see what's in there. And it's helpful. Over time, it knows enough about you so that as you talk with it, you'll get surprised, actually. Oh my God, it knows about me. So, and when it gives back advice, it will customize its advice according to what it knows about you.
Yeah, I love that you pointed that out, because as I'm using ChatGPT now and I ask maybe just kind of general questions, it will tailor it based on my conversations from 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, because it knows the business I'm in, it knows my family situation, which again, maybe to some people is a little unnerving. And so you want to turn that off. In other cases, it's super helpful because it gives you answers that are tailored to your specific situation. It's actually quite useful.
So we have just a couple minutes left. Anything else that you wanted to share with us? How about what are you excited about with AI in the coming months?
I would say the biggest thing, it can help me broaden my capability, right? when I was doing my PhD, for example, right, if I need to go look at a paper, I had to go to the library. And there used to be these big volumes of physical review, and even to finding knowledge are so difficult, right? Then internet came, I can find any papers. But now with ChatGPT, and if you follow, they came up with a new model called O1 that can do a little bit of reasoning. So these tools gives us the ability to work in a way they are beyond what is to be possible, right? I can do more with less. I can do more with less time. I can do things that I was not formally trained on, at least to a certain extent, right? Uh, I can review law documents that it was very difficult for me to understand before, but now I can do that, right? Um, another thing, what you can do that learn more, right? Learn more about what it can do. And that's actually one of the thing I feel really sad about. Most of the people know the art of possible, what you can in these platforms can do for you, right? Like I, for example, right, teach a workshop, the whole day workshop, like what I call AI for competitive advantage, right? I go through all the details, what AI can do and most importantly cannot do, and then show people the tools and we brainstorm ideas. Because chatbot, all these things that what we see, imagination, that's fine, but it can do way more than that, right? It all depends on what you do in every day, you, your company, your business group, and then we can brainstorm and find out how you can do things in a much better way. And we're just scratching the surface of its capability. And that's what I'm really excited about, that the art of possible that's possible right now with these tools.
Well, thank you, Ashiq, so much for sharing your knowledge and the foundations of AI. If anyone would like more information about Ashiq's workshops and offerings, check out his website at ashiq.org. And don't forget about our session tomorrow. We're going to dive deep with a great panel. And we're going to get into that applying AI in quality management. So don't miss it. You have the link. Same time, same link. We'll see you tomorrow.
That's good.